wish you all an abundance of energy, peace, and hearts always filled with love. Even when we have problems to solve or face difficulties, we shouldn't always rush to resolve them. If we can resolve them, then by all means, let's do so. But if we've tried to resolve something multiple times without success, we must understand that it's lacking certain conditions. We need to patiently wait for the right causes and conditions. Sometimes we wait for the other party or the circumstances to change. Sometimes we wait for ourselves to change, because a person who is running out of energy, depleted of energy, a person controlled by emotional storms, a person manipulated by afflictions, trying to solve problems, will they be able to solve anything? Not only will they fail to solve the problem, but they might also worsen the situation. Therefore, the Buddha advises us that at times we should let the difficulties and unpleasant things be. Let the other party continue to stir things up. We shouldn't intervene just yet, because if intervention has failed repeatedly, then we shouldn't intervene anymore. At that point, the Buddha teaches us to practice a very special exercise called Wu Wei. Wu Wei translates to do nothing in English, but the English translation is better. It's more like doing nothing, meaning doing something by not doing. It also means that we don't focus on external actions anymore, but turn inward to act. That's the simplest meaning of the term Wu Wei. I won't speak anymore, I won't act anymore, I won't rack my brains to solve the problem anymore. I'll temporarily stop. But stopping doesn't mean I'm giving up, or that I won't resolve it anymore. I'm stopping to change my state, to recharge my energy, to re-examine myself, to manage my negative energies, to take care of my ego or the wounds within me or my huge ego. After that, my mind reaches a state of balance, like after sitting in meditation for 15 minutes or half an hour, my mind is a bit more stable. If we find that this practice yields results and brings about change, then let's continue to persevere in meditation, to stabilize our minds. Once we are full of energy and peace, then we can think about solving the problem. So, within us, there are many levels of consciousness. Sometimes we are in a state of delusion, sometimes we are in a slightly clearer state, then back to delusion, and sometimes we are in a state of semi-consciousness, and sometimes we are in a state of constant clarity. And when our mind is clear, we will see many things that we can't see when the mind is deluded. The Buddha advises us not to use a deluded mind to solve suffering, because it will never work. In that deluded mind, there will certainly be wrong perceptions, wrong judgments, and wrong views. In that deluded mind, there may be many afflictions involved. There may be the darkness of demons, of the black dog of depression involved. Therefore, the Buddha said that circumstances can sometimes be influenced to change, but not always. We can't always change things. Once this unpleasantness is over, there will be other unpleasant things, just as a virtuous master once said, Life is full of thorns. We can't clear all the thorns in this life. The best way is to equip ourselves with a really good pair of shoes so we can walk on all the thorns. Those shoes are endurance. Those shoes are the eyes of mindfulness. Use the eyes of awareness to perceive problems. Instead of we keep looking at problems with eyes full of sadness, pain and despair. Through the eyes of awareness, after half an hour of meditation, I bring my mind back to develop focus and mindfulness. Developing focus means concentrating on one object. At that time, the mind doesn't know where to go. It just stops and delves deep into one subject, but it creates a strength, a force that helps, so that when the mind switches to observation mode, it recognizes an object very persistently and deeply. So when we start switching to a mechanism of observation, using the mind to observe the mind, observing what's happening within ourselves with a different eye than before. The eye of awareness. I'm observing myself. In fact, when I start observing myself, then I've started to have awareness. And furthermore, when I've returned to myself, I no longer run around looking for someone to punish or compete with. No blaming, no accusing. I've returned, bringing my mind back in this moment. Right now, here and now, I've started to establish awareness. Through the eyes of awareness, I suddenly begin to realize that besides the unpleasant things happening, besides the difficulties I'm having, besides the suffering and pain surrounding me, I know that for too long I have identified my whole being with that suffering and pain, with that unpleasantness. I've been too focused on it, because I believe that only when I take those sufferings and pains out and resolve them, then I can live, then I can have happiness. The Buddha said that's the wrong way. You'll never get rid of it all. Once one thing is gone, another will come. Are you going to sit there your whole life waiting, ready to use all your inner strength to solve all the difficulties in life? Don't you have any other reason to live? But when there is awareness, the mind has returned and is clear. The mind begins to recognize the pleasant things that are present, the conditions for happiness, and the mind begins to be happy. For example, when we return to our breath seriously and effectively, sometimes we shed tears because we see that we are still alive. Oh my God, I thought I was dead. Heaven still allows me to have this day. The morning dew melts and the clouds part in the sky. A person who can still sit still and breathe in and out, knowing this is an in-breath and this is an out-breath, is extremely precious. Because there are people who can no longer do that. They have fallen into mental illness. They have been controlled by the beast of depression. They have been submerged in suffering and pain for a long time. If we can escape and breathe, if we can feel our breath, then we feel extremely precious. And the Zen master of Plum Village has a saying, the English sentence that the Zen master wrote first and then translated later, which is everything is possible because you are still alive. Everything is possible as long as you are still alive. Of course, if you are alive, healthy and lucid, everything can be resolved. Don't be disappointed because we've only used a small part of ourselves. There's a huge amount of energy that hasn't been used yet. And if you want to use it, you have to turn inward. There are treasures in the house, no need to search far. That's a saying by Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. You have many extraordinary abilities, many treasures. Don't look for them outside. The outside will never satisfy you enough. Only when you turn back to find peace and tranquility in your soul will you be satisfied. So, when we breathe, if we can dwell in our breath, then I found happiness, and I'm starting to look deeper and wider. I see that I still have a healthy body, good health and intelligence. I still have wisdom, knowledge, degrees and a job. I still have loved ones, family, and so much more. Why don't we focus on the hundreds of favorable things we can list? Why do we only pay attention to a few unfavorable things instead of these hundreds of favorable conditions? Why make ourselves suffer by focusing on the unfavorable? The human mind is so peculiar. It's so strange. It only likes to focus on the unfavorable and refuses to pay attention to the favorable. Even though I've steered it this way, it still tries to run back. So I have to train it. It might be a bit late, but it's still not too late. Train my mind. So when I meditate, my mind wanders off. I bring it back, but it stubbornly wanders off again. Then I bring it back. Sometimes in 15 minutes, it wanders off 100 times, and I can't even get a minute of peace. But that still counts as a cultivation practice, meaning I'm practicing to grasp my mind, to guard my mind, so that based on that experience, I don't want my mind to cling to this object or this subject anymore. Instead, I want my mind to cling to this subject, this object, which are the favorable things, the conditions for happiness, so that the mind stays on this side and not on that channel, that station over there anymore. That side is suffering, this side is happiness. Jumping from this shore to that shore takes only a split second. Just one breath and you can reach the other side. Reach the other shore, the shore of peace. The shore free from tension. No more fear or sorrow. If we are determined to practice, because this shore is also within us, and the other shore is also within us, not in someone else. Which shore do we want to be on? If we want to cross over to the other shore, then we need a boat. We can't just jump. To get to the other shore, we need a boat, a means of transportation. That's where the breath and all the subjects of meditation are the boats that take us from this shore to the other. But we have to get on the boat. How can we cross to the other shore if we just stand there looking at the boat? We have to practice. Sit down and breathe. Take slow and peaceful steps. We must be present, return to our subject, and not let our minds wander. And with the eyes of mindfulness, we will see what we didn't see before. See the conditions for happiness that we have. And when we see those conditions, we see that the unfavorable things are just trivial and insignificant. When we look at someone and see their strengths, their weaknesses don't matter. It's just that we can't do that. We keep focusing on their flaws, so we think that's all they are, just a terrible person. That's all wrong view, a trapped view, a framed view. Get rid of that view. Don't focus on that unpleasant subject anymore. Now, shift to a pleasant subject by asking what's likable about that person. What kindnesses they've shown us. How have they treated us well? Write it down on a piece of paper, and we'll see that their strengths outweigh their unpleasant qualities tenfold, dozens of times, even hundreds of times. So we can conclude that the reason we suffer is that we keep focusing on the unfavorable things, and we forget to turn back and pay attention to cherish, preserve, and enjoy the favorable things we have. Isn't that right? In the method of transforming suffering, we use the 4 steps of meditation. Step 1, when a negative emotion appears, for example, anger, the first step is to recognize it in time. I am angry. I am seeing the face of anger within me. That's the first step of transformation. Once we have this step, we can begin to separate ourselves from suffering. But if our mind is still projecting outward to investigate and watching, criticizing, judging, defending, condemning, accusing, punishing, if you punish, suffering will continue to accumulate. The Buddha suggests we turn inward and see what's happening inside. In fact, for a diligent meditator, they always turn inward to see what is happening from the body to the sensations to the mind. What's happening in my stream of feelings, a pleasant or unpleasant sensation. A meditator, someone practicing mindfulness, must know, right? We only know about others, but we don't know anything about ourselves. We know what's happening on our phones, but we don't know what's happening in our own minds. That won't do. If that's the case, we'll continue to be slaves to suffering. And the important thing is to know what's happening in the mind. Is there doubt? Is there envy? Is there resentment? Is there calculation? Are there biases or prejudices? You have to know. Know if a wound is in control. This is called recognizing in English. It's called recognize. I know. I see something is wrong within me. Looking inward, I know it's fear, it's envy, it's a resistant mind that's present within me. The second step, after recognizing, is what the Buddha suggests. Allow it, accept it as it unfolds. Don't try to stop it, don't try to suppress it, don't try to eliminate it. It won't work. It's a raging flood. You can't stop it. If you jump in, you'll be swept away. The more you try to suppress and stop it, the angrier and more miserable you become. But the Buddha suggests we step back and observe, accept, and see how the anger unfolds. See how fierce this anger is. What's its true nature? What causes, what roots led to this anger? This anger. The third step is called investigation. Investigate in English. The second step is acceptance, allowing the emotion to unfold, called alo or accept. The third step is investigate, which means investigation. We start by sitting down, stopping, and returning to the breath, to the meditation. Or to body scan meditation, for example. My mind starts to wake up a bit. I start asking questions. Why am I angry? Why do I often get angry at this person? And who is this person? The person next to me, the person I love the most, the person I sacrifice the most for, but also the person I'm most angry with. Why? Is it because I'm biased against this person? Has this person hurt me many times before? So just when they open their mouth, I get angry without knowing if they're right or wrong. Why am I angry? Because they're too difficult. I can't take it anymore. Because my energy is depleted. I have a problem. Do they have a problem, or do I have a problem? Ask that question to find out. See where the anger comes from. And the result of a proper practice is to find out where the cause lies, inside. Because if we're stable, fresh, full of energy, healthy, loving life, loving people, then those words wouldn't be able to knock us down. Those actions wouldn't be able to make us react so strongly. If we react like that, it means something was already wrong beforehand, right? We can see that before we got angry, before we suffered, our mind was very weak. Our attitude towards life wasn't right. Our mind was already very agitated. There was already some affliction, but it hadn't manifested yet. Then that person threw in a pinch of salt, a handful of salt, and the heart is now a bowl of water, so it's too salty to drink. But before, it was a river. I'm very familiar with this example. The image is very easy to grasp and relate to. The capacity of our heart is like a river. How can a few handfuls of termites do anything to us? Right? So when we investigate, examine, and look back, we clearly see that we were not okay. If we weren't okay, it's mostly our fault. Even if the other side contributed by saying unkind things or bringing negative energy, right? And step 4 is called non-identification and observe. Continue to observe our mind. But we no longer identify with the anger. We step back and become a viewer. Anger is a movie, we are observers. Suffering and pain are phenomena. So we separate ourselves from the anger, separate ourselves from the suffering and pain. We can stand here and look at it over there, meaning we've escaped the control of anger and affliction, and suffering doesn't arise. So conversely, suffering arises because looking back at the 4 steps, we didn't recognize that we had a problem, that we were angry, sensitive, or hurt. Step 2 is that whenever we are sensitive or hurt, we don't accept ourselves as we are, we avoid it. We're indifferent, or we exclude and suppress ourselves. Step 3 instead of sitting down to examine ourselves, we examine them, interrogate them, asking questions like, why do they dare treat me like this? Do they still love me, or do they love someone else? What are their intentions? And step 4 is that instead of not identifying with that suffering and pain, we get caught up in it, allowing suffering to arise because we hate them so much that we must suffer to take revenge by lying flat, for example, not eating, not drinking, locking ourselves in a room from day to day, turning off the phone, not talking. What for? Punishment. But does punishment work? Maybe they also feel the pain, but they don't wake up. No one awakens from someone else's punishment. And if they hurt, we also hurt because who are they? They are our children, our husbands, our wives, our loved ones. Who would punish themselves? Except when we're deluded. Only in delusion do we act like that. But we are Buddhists, we are meditators, so we must wake up and not accept living in delusion. We must find the sun of awakening again. And where is the sun of awakening? Inside. Turn inward and you will find it. Just persevere. Then practice the right method sincerely, and you will reconnect with the light of awakening. In that light, we will realize that those unpleasant things will never make us suffer if we don't project our attitude onto them. Are you following? That person can only make us suffer when we have a demand or slightly less, an expectation of that person. Only then can that person make us suffer. But when we don't need anything, we're sufficient, we're stable, we have no expectations or hopes, and our mind has something to be at peace with, then whatever the other side does, we won't be shaken. We'll just see it as an unpleasant thing, and that's it. That's why I wrote in the book, Understanding the Heart, and always remind the audience that suffering only exists when we resist, don't accept or exclude. In general, it's anger. Putting anger on unpleasant things that happen. That is, when unpleasant things happen and are combined with our anger, then suffering arises, just as the Buddha said in the Four Noble Truths. Suffering is a truth. I am suffering greatly. But the Buddha said, look back. There is another great truth hidden deep within this truth. The reason we suffer is because we are controlled by greed, hatred, and delusion. Oh my God, how can I as a human be without greed, hatred, and delusion? If so, I must strive to cultivate myself, because humans can still do something. Reduce greed, hatred, and delusion, control them, and transform them. Lessen greed, hatred, and delusion, don't always be consumed by them. When we meditate, greed, hatred, and delusion have no way in. At that moment, we have complete control. But because we cultivate so little, we let our minds wander, allowing greed, hatred, and delusion to freely arise. Who's to blame then, right? If we manage greed, hatred, and delusion well, always recognizing them, observing them, not identifying with them, always examining them, then there's no suffering, because we rarely turn inward. We focus outward too much. So we unintentionally create fertile ground for greed, hatred, and delusion to arise and control us. Therefore, we must re-establish mindfulness, return to the present moment through our breath, through contemplation of the body, contemplation of feelings, through methods the Buddha taught and we've adopted, and have practiced in the past to bring the mind back home, to reside in our own home, to cultivate mindfulness. And when we have mindfulness, it means we've subdued anger, right? With mindfulness, anger cannot survive. That's how it is. And when anger is subdued, then desire is also subdued, meaning greed is also subdued. When unpleasantness arises, it looms large before us, running back and forth, going to and fro, but it can't affect us because we've subdued greed, hatred, and delusion, and are controlling them with the power of mindfulness. With mindfulness, whatever is said or done is irrelevant. So unpleasantness is just unpleasantness. It doesn't necessarily mean that unpleasantness must lead to suffering. It depends on how we react to it, whether it becomes suffering or not. That's our choice. And often we want to choose not to suffer, right? But the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. We choose, but can't do it because we're too lazy to cultivate daily. When the moment of battle arrives, we cry, "Mindfulness, come back and help me. Come back and deal with this terrible unpleasantness." But it doesn't appear. If only we cultivated diligently and practiced the right methods, always having freshness, a joyful smile, and happiness in our hearts, then suddenly, when unpleasantness strikes, it's immediately defeated. How can it cope with the power of mindfulness? But if we're weak like a kitten and unpleasantness arrives, we immediately fall. So, we've been waiting for unpleasantness to suffer, and then who do we blame? Now, let's try. Sitting here with the monks and the master, joyful, peaceful, with the energy of mindfulness overflowing unpleasantness. Come here. Can anyone harm us in this moment? We can easily let it go, right? Because our mind is firmly fixed on another channel, the channel of peace and mindfulness. It doesn't pay attention to those distractions anymore. We must train our minds like that. Moreover, through the eyes of mindfulness, we see that unpleasant things, they must be present, they are necessary. Because imagine if everyone always pleased us, we don't know what we'd become. We'd become queens and kings, right? If the whole world always did what we wanted, we wouldn't be human anymore. Then we suddenly realize that, but surely we must be battered and go through many harsh ups and downs before we realize that unpleasantness is natural. When we meditate, our minds are a little calmer. We're very happy and joyful and have a little pride. I can meditate. I have the essence of meditation. But after finishing the session, where does it go? It runs around aimlessly. It can't enter. It can't merge, thinking all sorts of things. We start criticizing ourselves, thinking I probably don't have an affinity for meditation. Maybe I should practice another method or just give up. I think if you're going to meditate, this isn't the time to do good deeds. That's the wrong attitude. It's wrong to sit there waiting to be calm, waiting for your mind to settle. That's the wrong attitude. The Buddha taught that you must learn to accept both. When the mind is calm, welcome and acknowledge it. That means the mind is calm. Don't skip any joyful attitude. When the mind isn't calm, when the mind is wandering and delusional, just acknowledge it. That very act of acknowledging is mindfulness, and that's what we're looking for. The object of acknowledgement, of mindfulness, can be anything. It can be still, or it can be jumping around. Do you understand? It means we joyfully accept whatever is passing through our consciousness without forcing it to see this or that for us. Goodness, people out there are already forcing things. Why come to meditation and force things even more? Let it be natural. Accept it. That's why I say the second step of the 4 steps of transformation is accepting whatever is happening. This is great. It has a great function. Then, when facing unpleasant things, we can easily accept that they happen. Of course, if it's too dangerous, we have to avoid it, dodge it, block it. But if it's not dangerous, if it just goes against our will, then let it happen. See why? It has its own cause and effect. It has its own process. We can't stop it. If you stop it here, it'll pop up somewhere else. Instead, step back and observe what it wants. Then you'll realize that unpleasantness and pleasantness are 2 sides of the same coin. In my own experience, I've found that when things are going smoothly and I'm able to do great things, it's almost as if adversity is just around the corner. So I don't get too caught up in the achievements or the good fortune that comes my way. And when I'm busy dealing with adversity, so I don't get too caught up in the achievements or the good fortune that comes my way. And when I'm busy dealing with adversity, I'm still confident the good fortune will come again. It just keeps going like that. I don't know about your lives, but that's how I've experienced my life. Good fortune rarely comes continuously. And I think if good fortune were continuous, we'd become weak just sitting there enjoying it, right? We humans have a survival instinct. We have to train ourselves to respond, to solve problems, to endure, right? Endurance is an essential part of reaching enlightenment. If we don't endure, if we only want to enjoy things, if we only want pleasant things, and we don't like unpleasant things, who's going to give them to us? So we start building anew, and we don't like unpleasant things. Who's going to give them to us? So we start building a new awareness. I will accept both pleasantness and unpleasantness. I don't know how many times I've lectured on this, and I have to keep repeating it, and you listen like it's the first time. Go home and tell your naughty child, Mom accepts you because Mom has enjoyed your cuteness and sweetness. And you listen like it's the first time. go home and tell your naughty child, Mom accepts you because Mom has enjoyed your cuteness and sweetness. Who else is going to enjoy this part? Mom has to accept it. Even better, tell your husband, honey, you can be difficult. I'll accept both because I realize that you have your sweet side and your difficult side. And I can do this because in my own experience, I used to not accept my own unpleasantness. But through Thich Nhat Hanh, I've learned to accept delusions, to accept negative emotions, because I've also enjoyed the sweetness and goodness within me. Then the problem can be solved. Unpleasantness is natural. Remember to set that command in your head. Every time it happens, it's natural. But saying it like that is too much like an LP. It's like we're setting a default, but inside we have many reactions. So if you're really stuck, you can use that trick. But the Buddha doesn't encourage us to use that. We're setting a default, but inside we have many reactions. So if you're really stuck, you can use that trick. But the Buddha doesn't encourage us to use that trick often. The Buddha encourages us to observe how our minds react when something unpleasant happens. 4 steps: recognize, accept, investigate, and step back to observe without identifying. You've memorized it, right? Start practicing so that something unpleasant happens. 4 steps: recognize, accept, investigate, and step back to observe without identifying. You've memorized it, right? Start practicing so that next year's Dharma talk season, when you see the flowers blooming, no one will be suffering, and we'll never talk about suffering again. We'll talk about happiness. And always remember, whether you suffer or not, you are the main cause. The other side also, it only helps a little, but remember this. Forget what you forget, but remember this. If we're still blaming the other person, we know we're deluded, not awake. And when we're awake, we naturally see more responsibility on our side. And we want to solve our own problems more. Imagine if we didn't have any internal issues, and the other person is stubborn, unruly, and annoying. They could never make us suffer. We might suffer a little, react a little, but not suffer miserably. Falling means it's our fault, lacking effort. There's effort, but not enough inner strength. We must keep practicing. Then, at some point, after many years of life experiences, we begin to realize something else terrible. Thank you, suffering. Because if there were no suffering, I wouldn't be sitting here meeting They Ming. I don't mean to imply that everyone here is suffering, but surely we have all suffered and sought ways to escape suffering. We come to Buddhism, to temples, to various traditions to find a way to overcome suffering. So in my book, Understanding the Heart, I wrote 4 lines in the first chapter. If there is no suffering, how would we know happiness? What else? That's right. Thank you, you still remember. In dreams, we seek awakening. I base that on personal experience. Because if my parents hadn't passed away in such a major event, I'd probably still be wandering somewhere, still practicing, but still wandering, not decisively turning inward, not truly practicing, cutting off all attachments. There's nowhere to cling to, nowhere to run, so I have to run inward. I also, like another quote from Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, the path to escape suffering is the path inward. Oh my! We already want to run out, and he says to turn back in. Turn inward. Remember this, the path to escape suffering from that person, from that situation, is the path inward, because turning inward makes us bigger. It expands our hearts to accept and handle the situation in the wisest, most conscious way. And often we don't need to handle anything. As I said, when we're strong and our hearts are big enough, we can just let it be. We can still accept it. And we realize something else. Suffering has to be present. It makes us stop. Otherwise, we just keep going and going. We remain arrogant, proud, and conceited until we hit a pothole. We fall, hit our heads, shed tears, and realize we're not as great as we thought. We can't grasp and control everything as we thought. There's something beyond our reach, something that doesn't entirely belong to us. We wake up and start to realize that we need to change. If that person didn't yell in our face and tell us we're annoying, bossy, and cruel, how would we ever reflect? If that person always praised and flattered us, we just keep rushing forward. So please go somewhere else. And if our awakening is great and we have some wisdom, we can see that the nature of suffering isn't real. There's no such thing as suffering. In the Heart Sutra, it says, no ignorance, also no extinction of it. No ignorance means there's no such thing as ignorance to end, nothing to eliminate. Because ignorance is just a temporary state. When something unpleasant happens and we resist it, suffering arises. But if we withdraw that resistance, suffering can't exist anymore. So how can we say suffering is real? Never say, I am suffering. If we call it by its right name, it's I am resisting unpleasant things, which is more accurate. Therefore, the word dukkha in Buddhism is sometimes translated as suffering, but when translated, dissatisfaction means dissatisfaction. Oh, I'm dissatisfied. That's absolutely right. But saying I'm suffering is wrong. The mistake is that you've already added your attitude, which creates suffering. Otherwise, it's just dissatisfaction. But dissatisfaction is natural and normal, so there's no suffering involved. Saying Buddhism claims life is suffering isn't entirely correct. It's only relatively true because suffering is real. You see someone suffering, but there's a reason. Greed, hatred, and delusion are involved, making that truth relative. The absolute truth is that Buddha spoke of nirvana, which everyone has within. When suffering is reduced, nirvana appears. Nirvana is a state of stillness without greed, hatred, or delusion, with true peace and happiness. Then we'll reach that place and accept all the dissatisfying things in life, provided we are always mindful. But mindfulness isn't easy. It requires a lot of practice. Spend time with yourself and stop lingering on the internet, chatting, talking, and doing things that aren't necessary. Even good and necessary activities should be reduced because your inner self needs it more. You need to return to care for and nurture your mind, your noble soul, your loving and compassionate heart, and care for the heart that's still hurting. So, if we believe in personal transformation, it's because we believe in impermanence, which means everything will change. They won't stay the same, they'll be more or less annoying. It's impermanent, nothing is fixed. But if we still see them as fixed, labeling them as unpleasant and someone to be eliminated, then we're wrong. And we will also be impermanent. Feelings are impermanent, pleasant, then unpleasant, then neutral. Emotions like happiness, sadness, love, and hate are also impermanent. Perceiving right and wrong is also impermanent. Because of impermanence, we believe suffering will turn into happiness. The tangerine fades and apricot blossom blooms after a winter frost. If you haven't experienced the bone-chilling cold, then continue to suffer. Why? Apricot blossoms don't easily spread their fragrance. Those are lines from Zen Master Huangbo. We know that after that adversity, after that storm, if we return to practice to deal with the remnants of suffering, perhaps the flower in our heart will bloom. Enlightenment will lead to a new chapter in life. Thank you all for listening. Now, let's take a few minutes to calm our minds and nurture our mindfulness. We'll sit still and relax, keeping our spines straight and our chins level, our eyes closed and our lips smiling because we're still alive. We still have so many dissatisfactions. I'm sorry, so many satisfactions. We smile because we've realized so much from today's lecture. Thank you, heaven and earth, for allowing me to return. After years of wandering, I understand the pain of life. I wish to return and rely on the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I rely on the Buddha's mindfulness and enlightenment. I return to rely on the Dharma, the path to escape suffering, which the Buddha diligently offered us. I return to rely on the Sangha, the community, practicing mindfulness as a model for us, lay Buddhists still adrift to return and rely on them and share our feelings. For those of you with priority seating on the first floor, please be aware that the general audience is seated outside, so they don't have the opportunity to ask the Master direct questions. Please raise your hand if you have any questions or any sharing to offer. Please come forward. Yes, I invite you. Respected Master Nhat Hanh and everyone present in the meditation hall, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Khan and I live in District 6. After listening to your lecture, Master, I'm not sure I understand what you mean by returning to one's heart and caring for a wounded heart. Also, how do we reduce doing things that we feel are good, but still reduce them to return to this line is a duplicate of the previous line and has been removed, our heart. Thank you. There are times when we look outwards to make a living, to struggle, and to do things that benefit ourselves and others, but with the condition that we must be stable. Only when we are stable can we work well. We must love others effectively without causing suffering to others. Helping ourselves and others should be unconditional, but when we are unstable, we cannot do that. Therefore, we must return to resolve our instability and make it a top priority, even when we fall into a psychological state like sadness, boredom, or loneliness and despair that lasts too long, and we no longer have the inspiration to work or strive. Then we must seek to understand what we can call our mental illness in order to help ourselves. Our bodies also need help, and every day we must exercise, eat, and rest adequately to ensure a basic lifestyle so that our bodies are less prone to illness. Yet they still get sick. So how much more does our soul, which is even more sensitive than our body, need us to exercise? Just as we exercise to strengthen our muscles, the endurance of our soul must be firm. We must give it enough rest, let it be relaxed and gentle, and nourish it with wholesome energy from nature, from the earth and sky, and from kind people. Then our soul will be stable. Sometimes we even have to stop working completely to dedicate all our time to returning and caring for our soul. Caring here means spending more time paying attention to ourselves. More precisely, it means re-establishing a more balanced and stable life in which we prioritize ourselves, reduce our outward focus, reduce our involvement in work, and even cut back on work or stop working altogether, pay less attention to others, including our loved ones. We should let them know that we need a short period to return and take care of ourselves. Then we cut off contact with the internet and unnecessary conversations. Spend time going to a meditation center, a non-profit organization, or even a farm growing flowers and vegetables, or a temple, or any place that helps us turn inward, meaning every day we have the opportunity to connect with ourselves and look within. This is the first time I've shared my problems in front of everyone like this, and it's also the first time I've heard a Dharma talk from you, Master. Why are you here? About 2 years ago, my sister sent me a clip of you on YouTube talking about depression. I watched it and felt it was very helpful, from 1 to 2 hours in the afternoon. Besides walking for 1 to 2 hours, you should also try jogging, cycling, or swimming. You can also try boxing, hang up a punching bag. Actually, I really like those sports, but my physical health doesn't allow it yet. So you have to start with faith. First, punch for about 5 minutes, then rest. Then punch for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Keep boxing until you're drenched in sweat. Then the depression dog will be exhausted and unable to do anything to you. So 1 hour of boxing will sustain you for half a day, and 2 hours of boxing will sustain you for the whole day. That's because when you improve your physical and mental strength, the depression dog cannot attack you. Usually, the depression dog only waits for you to be weak, both physically and mentally. So it's very difficult to immediately increase your mental strength, but you can increase your physical strength. So try to diligently and persistently exercise in the morning for 2 hours. Earlier, I said 1 to 2 hours, but now I must emphasize 2 hours. 2 hours in the afternoon as well. Of course, it's not just boxing. Combine it with jogging, walking, and even yoga or other sports to have Quan Bin. And since you live in Vang Tao, you should go to the beach often to be exposed to the sea breeze, natural sounds, and nature as much as possible. First, remember, exercise, and second, nature. Spend 1 or 2 hours outdoors each day, and the more the better. Do anything like planting trees, cleaning, walking, or playing with pets. Anything outdoors is great for relaxing your mind. Let me finish. Third, find someone or a group of people who are kind and trustworthy to share and talk with every day. One person is good, but more is better. Talk about anything with them openly. Find people to confide in and avoid hiding things inside. Avoid being alone too much, staying in your room for too long, and using the internet and your phone, okay? And next, step 4. Keep a daily diary to write down everything that happened. How long you exercised, how effective it was, and what happened during that time. How long did you box? How much time did you spend outside? Write it down, and while you were outside, what was your mood like? And who did you connect with? What did you talk about? How did you feel while connecting and talking? In your diary, also note how many times the depression dog returned and for how long. Did you recognize it in time? Or did it take a while? And did you follow the 4 steps I mentioned? 1, recognize it. 2, allow it to be present. 3, ask why you feel that way. 4, observe it without identifying with it. This also applies to people with depression. Finally, spend time each day, about 5 to 10 minutes each time, meditating to calm your mind. When your mind is calm, it's no longer afraid or wandering. It starts to settle, and that mindfulness scares the depression dog. If you can observe the depression dog itself, it won't have a chance to develop. But don't meditate for half an hour or an hour straight. That's dangerous for someone who's depressed. Sitting too long without focus, only having delusions, will allow a dog of depression to take over. You'll think you're meditating, but you're actually feeding the depression dog. So meditate in multiple sessions, 5 to 10 minutes each, or at most 15 minutes. Then exercise, connect with nature, write in your diary, and connect with friends. Divide your meditation time like taking medicine 4 times a day. Do you think you can do all that? Yes. I've been doing the first and second things you mentioned, exercise and spending time in nature, for a few months now. As for the third thing, needing someone to share with, I had someone, but our energies both turned bad. Oh, and don't talk to that person for more than an hour a day. I've been with that person for about 2 years, since the death of someone I love. Yes. The other person is also depressed, so you're both sympathizing with each other. Oh, I forgot to warn you not to confide too much in someone who's depressed. Only confide in people who aren't depressed and have strong, healthy energy. Go to the temple and talk to the monks. They have healthy, strong energy. When you have enough energy, you can share it with that person and they can share it back. But if you're both depleted, you'll drag each other down, right? You can't predict when it'll go up or down. After listening to your lectures, I understand that better. About the fourth thing, I want to learn to meditate, but I don't know where to start. I'd like to inform everyone that I'll be staying here for a long time, because I have some opportunities to stay and share meditation and therapy with everyone until the end of the year. I'll probably focus on lectures, but next year I'll organize meditation classes. We'll announce it widely so the community can participate. And I really hope to have the opportunity to open a 7-day meditation retreat, or 10 days, so everyone can have a profound experience soon. That information will be widely announced for you to follow and participate in. I hope you heal your wounds soon. Thank you for your question. Greetings, Master. Greetings, everyone. May I kneel because I'm in the front row? Yes, may I ask a question? My family, my parents raised 3 children who practice meditation and have their own families. However, my parents sometimes argue a little, but they really love each other. My mom especially listens to Master Nhat Hanh every day. If she doesn't listen to Master Nhat Hanh, she can't sleep. Yes, really? Yes, that's right. So she listens to fall asleep. Yes. May I speak for my mom because she speaks with a central accent and doesn't dare to speak Chinese? No, a central accent. Invite your mom. I'm good at understanding the central accent. Yes, please invite your mom. Yes, invite her. Greetings, Master. Greetings, everyone. Speak naturally, okay? Yes, yes, yes. At home, keep the mic close like this? Yes, yes. Dear Master, at home. Well, as I introduced, my husband and I, in general, my husband is very kind, but he has a terrible temper. He's depressed, but he doesn't admit it. He has depression, but he doesn't recognize it. It's been like this for 3 years. I went to the doctor, and they said I have anxiety disorder and prescribed medication. I'm a pharmacist, so I know the medication is for depression, so naturally, taking the medicine makes me feel peaceful. But on the other hand, my head feels dizzy. Then I learned about Thanai Min. Nim a year ago, specifically 8 months. Since then, every day, I don't do anything else but listen, maybe 7 to 10 tracks. I listen until 10 p.m. Do you listen alone, or does your husband listen too? Yes, He listens a little, but he falls asleep. He only listens for 5 minutes. But he doesn't object to listening, and if he can sleep, then he's absorbing it. But now, I'm asking you, Master, there's something going on at home right now. He's taking depression medicine, but my husband is very kind. He can take care of 2 or 3 entire families. He can take care of everything. But if I say something he doesn't like, he smashes things, but he never touches me. I see him smashing things and singing loudly. Before I kept telling him, but since I learned about Master Nhat Hanh, when he smashes things, I tell him, go inside, go inside, go inside. When he goes inside, I also recognize it, and I do everything like you taught, Master, and I manage it, and he praises me, saying I'm good at enduring. But on the other hand, it gets bottled up. It gets bottled up. Some days I endure too much, and at night I get so frustrated. I'm listening to you, Master, and I'm also upset about him, and it just bursts out. I can't sleep. I'm listening to you, Master, and I'm also upset about him, and it just bursts out. I can't sleep. Today, I've been following you closely, Master, but you haven't answered anything. I've been following closely. This girl has a lot of work. She's a pharmacist, so she has a lot of work. But I made her take me to see you. You have to sit in the middle so I can see you clearly. Yes, to be honest, Master, normally I eat dinner at 500 p.m. and take my depression medicine. But today it's 80:30 and I haven't eaten, but I don't feel hungry. I don't feel hungry or thirsty. Now, my wish is for you to advise me. Meeting you later is also fine. But meeting you now, if you could advise me now, or have me attend a meditation class, or teach me how to, when he's being difficult, how can I stay silent and not get angry? Thank you, Master. Ma'am, you're holding the mic, asking such an easy question. Of course, later you can register with the organizers, and I'll give you some advice. Are you here in the center or outside? I'm here in the center. That's very convenient because later, if there are meditation classes, this friend will probably know and invite you to participate. But while we're here, I'll give you some advice. You're doing great. Knowing how to take care of yourself every day, having such awareness isn't easy. When you've started to consciously take care of yourself, to take responsibility for your negative energy, that's very valuable. Your husband, who's by your side, must admire you a lot. It's just that the affinity to listen to my teachings depends on the person all the time. Maybe he hasn't accepted it yet, or he has accepted it but not as much as you. Slowly, with persistent effort, sink in. You'll need more practice, meaning you have to attend meditation courses to be taught the correct meditation techniques. And at home, you must practice continuously. Just listening to lectures isn't enough. Lectures are just reminders, but you remain the same. Or if there's any change, it's only a little. But when you practice, you change more because then your mind in those practices You only remember to breathe, to relax, to observe the things around you, to observe your mind and its reactions. You don't have time to observe the unkind words or actions of others. Only then can you cope with the difficulties he brings or your urge to retaliate. Also, before the meditation class, try to remember that whenever he starts to cause trouble, tell him, "I'm not feeling well. Please let me go for a walk." Or if you can't say anything, let him say a few words, then gently step out of that heavy war zone. Find a place to sit and breathe, to do walking meditation. You must separate yourself from that harsh environment to practice. And remember from today's lecture, all suffering is our decision. Whether we suffer depends on our mind. So turn back immediately. Don't just sit there forcing yourself not to be angry. You must step out of that space and return to the exercises I've taught, which are very basic in most of my lectures. Practice breathing, calming down, sitting still, relaxing and letting go. Just practice relaxing, focusing on your eye muscles, your eyes closing, your lips slightly tense, relaxing your shoulders. Just 5 minutes and your mind will lighten, escaping that object. I wish you success. Yes, may I ask another question? What should my mom and I do to help my dad? Well, help each person individually. Help your mom first, so she's more stable. When one person is stable, the other may become stable too. If you try to help both at once, you might not succeed. Also, don't be angry with your dad. Don't hate him. Don't avoid him. And don't point out his flaws. Instead, nurture the positive qualities in him, like praising him, acknowledging him, and mentioning the kindness he's shown you. Practice speaking gently. Anger often disappears with gentleness and tenderness. It will accelerate and become a fierce firestorm if you react. So, if you can practice and listen to Dharma talks, you're better off than those who don't have that opportunity. I wish you success. Thank you, Master.